You're listening to Overseas Dreams.
What's up? What up? What up? What up? What up? What up, world? Welcome back to Overseas Dreams. This is show 40. That's right. I'm finally 40 episodes in to the best radio show on Earth and in space. And this particular episode, I have somebody very, very special sitting next to me. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hey, this is one and only neighborhood friendly poet, LJ Bowens, aka EL, possibly JA Bowens, coming here all the way from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Spread love and share some of these dreams, not only locally but share these dreams overseas.
That's right, overseas and in space.
Hey, in space and beyond. Top flight of the world.
That's right. I mean, all over the Earth, and in overspace.
Yeah, no, overspace. We're gonna use that. We're gonna make that happen. Overspace. I'm with it.
That's right. Overseas and in space, because aliens could be listening to George Jetson and them. Why not? So, welcome to Overseas Dreams. I'm glad to finally have you on this show.
It's a blessing. Glad I can find the time to be here. My life's been busy, so just got back from vacation finally and kept feet on the ground running again. But it's good to be here.
This man is very hard to get up with. I just want y'all to know that, and he knows it. That's why he's laughing. But no, I'm really, really glad to get you on here. This is the second. You are the second poet on my poet series, I guess you could call it, for Overseas Dreams. Yeah, and you were definitely one of the ones I wanted to get. So yes, welcome to Overseas Dreams.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. It's well, depending on when people hear this, here is Sunday. So Sunday is normally my day to relax, chill, take care of much needed stuff, and actually clean home. But I've been chilling, so I'm good. I'm in a good headspace. Just relaxing, getting ready for some projects, getting ready to happen soon this month and the next. But for the most part, it's Sunday, so Sunday is normally my chill day. Do you remember the 3rd of September? Because that's what it is right now. So
is it really?
Yes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Earth, Wind, and Fire Day. No, I'm just playing.
Well, I was going the Temptations route, but I mean, we could do that too.
No, do what you need to do. I'm good.
Wasn't it the 3rd of September?
The 3rd of September.
The day his daddy died?
It may have been. I can't remember. That's what I'm trying to think.
It was the 3rd of September.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's
you're
what
right.
I thought. So, welcome to Overseas Dreams, the show where we sing the Temptations randomly just because it's the 3rd of September.
Exactly.
So, who is LJ Bowens?
Man, so if we're going to be honest, so LJ Bowens is Lewan Bowens, originally born in Detroit, Michigan in July 30th, 1981. Went to school in a small city in Lima, Ohio, and I moved to Lima, Ohio when I was 5, and I kind of went back and forth between both cities, and I kind of really got my love for the arts. I wouldn't say I was born with it, but then that sounds so cliche, but then my family has always done stuff with the arts since I've been growing up. My grandmother originally was one of the founding members of a church called Brown's Missionary Baptist Chapel in Detroit, one of the founding members that built it up. And then most of my family was in like the choir at that time before we were even born. So a lot of stuff I got was literally from the family and through my mom. So just growing up and just embracing the arts, loving the arts, and taking the arts with me since then, just trying to keep the bit of that part of the family alive, me and a couple other folks in our family. Not saying that everybody still don't do it, because some people still do, but I know me and a couple other family members kind of like try to keep that tradition alive when it deals with the arts and how we use the arts in order to help enrich a community. So that's me in a nutshell.
So when did you decide I'm gonna tap into poetry? And what made you start writing in the first place?
I honestly started writing third grade. Third grade, I came across the school I went to, which was Whittier Elementary, which no longer exists. They actually turned that to like a housing neighborhood now in Lima, Ohio. But when I got there, the third grade teacher I had, Mrs. Washam, she was doing with a curriculum fair. She always used to do curriculum fairs, and I wanted to do something with it, but didn't know what I wanted to do. So she was saying, maybe you should just write a story or something. So I wrote about the first thing I knew at that time, which was Super Mario Brothers, and I did like a 6-page story 3 pages with words, 3 pages with just like horrible drawn stick figures. But it got me inspired to just want to do more stories and write more stories. So I wrote a lot of stories that for my 3rd grade year, my teacher kept and laminated them, and some she still has to this day, which I'm thankful for. And that kind of got me, that's what got me into writing. I didn't really get into poetry until my 10th grade year doing an English project, which in hindsight, it's funny because 3rd grade, and I'm backtracking to 3rd grade. So with 3rd grade, we had to do a career day and we had to be somebody famous. And before I even really dwelled into poetry, I picked like a random person to dress up as, and that person actually happened to be Langston Hughes. And I didn't even know much about Langston Hughes in the 3rd grade. It just gravitated to him just because of somebody I saw. I wanted to be Langston Hughes, and I dressed up as him. And then 10th grade, I fell into doing a poetry project for my English teacher, Mrs. Steepleton. And once I did that, I ended up learning about all the styles of poetry, like the haikus, the sonnets, villanelles, free writes, all that stuff. And I loved writing poetry since then, because at first I wasn't even into poetry like that. I was more into like Greek mythology and wanted to just try to do some stuff with that and make up stories and more extracurricular stories, like stuff that may not even happen in Greek history or Greek mythology, but just make up some stuff. But I ended up falling in love with poetry, and I think that's pretty much what got me in love with that particular art form ever since.
Wow, that's crazy, because I could never keep up with Greek mythology. I tried, and to this day, I wish I could get into it, and I don't know, I get lost every single time. So yeah, and it's crazy because I had the same teacher that taught, I want to say it was biblical and mythological heroes, was the same teacher that taught poetry. I ain't think she did a great job, but that might be one reason why it kind of went over my head. And we didn't even study all the different types of poetry. To my recollection, she just had us writing poetry and short stories. I don't remember actually learning anything, but I mean,
nah, I don't know. Like I said, it's weird because like for me, some of my heroes are my teachers. My 3rd grade teacher, my homeroom teacher from middle school by the name of Miss Hullinger. Even though she really didn't teach certain subjects that I dealt with, I just liked her outlook was on life, and still like how her outlook is on life. And then of course when I got to high school, Miss Steepleton, Miss Offenbaker, who was like a home economics, home arts type of teacher, and I got involved with a lot of stuff with that. But it kind of helped me see more. Like I think my home economic teacher, they changed the name now, but it used to be called FHA, which was Future Homemakers of America, but now it's Future Career Community Leaders of America. I think that's what got the bug in me to want to do more outside of the area I was in, because when I was with them, I was traveling. Like I got to see like Buffalo, New York for the first time ever in life, in Niagara Falls. I got to see Louisville, Kentucky, doing stuff with this particular like club, and I was like, I want to travel more. I don't want to be here all day and graduate and just stay in the city. Like I want to see what else is out there. But it didn't work the way I wanted to, but it did work the way I wanted to. But yeah, some of my teachers are my heroes, and I'm thankful for them.
That's what's up. Do you remember what the first poem you wrote was about?
I do not. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I know a lot of people or some poets would be like, oh yeah, I remember my first poem was this. I really don't know, because I think how I write, well, I don't do it as much now, but how I was writing back then, I would just push out work. So there was never no like, my first poem was this, because I remember my first story because that's what got me to writing. But as far as my first poem, I don't know, because I literally just started pushing out a lot of work. So I really never kept up with it or try to like say this poem's going to be the one I always remember because it's the one that got me started. I honestly don't know. Gotcha. But I just know that I loved writing, and then I loved poems. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm sorry I got that story like most poets do, but the first poem, I don't got that. I just know I loved writing and creating, so.
Understood. I do have my first poem that I remember, but y'all
I
gotta
don't.
go
I do
back.
not have that. So that's what I'm saying. That's saying. Do that make me? I don't know if I should feel bad or not.
No,
I'm
not at all.
So
Not at all. I think I remember mine because I was challenged to do it.
nice.
So yeah, that's probably why. But no, that's perfectly fine. That's dope though.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's dope. So with you writing so much poetry, stories, books from a young age, would you say that you've mastered overcoming writer's block? Or do you deal with it sometimes?
I think I would say I have, but at the same time, just because I feel like I mastered overcoming writer's block doesn't necessarily mean the work is going to be good. So, because anybody, I think with writer's block is not so much, which is weird because I honestly think I came up with this revelation when you just asked me this question. I feel like with writer's block, as a writer, it's not necessarily that you have writer's block as it is that you don't know the direction you want to take what you're about to create. Because when it comes to writer's block, I feel as if you're getting that because you don't know what you want to write about. So you're more so blocked on the creativity than you are on the writing aspect. Because anybody can get a pencil and just start writing and free write and not worry about nothing. But if you're saying I got writer's block, it's more so for me, and it's just all opinion and speculation, but it's more so you just got a creativity block because you don't want to just write something and you don't feel it's going to be good because now you're being critical on yourself. So that's where the writer's block may come in. But to just say I have a writer's block and can't write, I think anybody can just write through it. That's why like some people I know say there's no such thing as writer's block. And it is and it ain't. I just feel like for me it's just more so I just can't create. I can't think of anything creatively that I want to do good because I can write something and it not be good, but I wrote something as to taking my time to try to create something.
That makes sense because I have my days where I wake up and I'm like, okay, I need to try to write, and I'll sit there, notebook open, pen in hand, even clicked, and I'll just sit there and my mind is blank. It's like, well, I don't know what to write about, not realizing I could just look out the window and write about palmetto trees, but it doesn't mean I think it's gonna be good. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, y'all, be sure not to go anywhere. We're about to get into this next song by Emma V, but be sure to stay tuned to Overseas Dreams Show 40, and we will be back.
I just wanna make you feel good.
I know what it's like to be broken. Waiting for someone or something to come along and fix you. But you're afraid they may not have the skills adequate to do the job properly. Sometimes I wish I knew if I were really happy. Like, is this feeling authentic or is it more so false evidence appearing real? Tell me what makes me tick. Am I perfectly stitched together with zigzag lines to show you a crooked smile when I only want to project to you picture perfect peace? Sometimes I feel like I'm put together like Frankenstein's monster because the irony between himself and I is that I feel like I'm just another bad creation. You see, these hands have so many issues that the brain no longer wants to subscribe to them. But I have to ask, are you as judgmental as the folks that you hang around with? Or do you feel it is best that you speak upon their behalf? How about you show me a sign that's different from a stationary octagon? Momentary glances at my upper torso resembles the earth's plane, showing distinctions of when my fault shifted, rearranged into new territory to be explored over, and I disregarded the sprites that illustrate me because the world feels that image is everything and thirst must be obeyed. Be afraid when you see me because I don't belong. Then tell me that I'm a freak because I have a heart that's 5 times bigger than the average. Some say that I care too much, but I say it's a condition that I don't want to change, but I'm used to this muscle hurting when it over overextends itself. Leave your beautifully handcrafted remarks for folks that seek validation, because those happen to be the same folks that hide truth as if it's a blemish on their skin. So share yourself like Rocky Dennis, because a mask will only lead you to portray a role. Forever love all weaknesses and pull those words away from your face to see the flaw hidden within the sentence. So you can either be made in his image, or you could be made in America, but authenticity will outlast a knockoff at any given time. Trace the scars that are left on you, and you'll see that led you to a place that you already were to begin with. Perfect.
Ooh. Ooh. So, where did that come from? I think I've heard you do it once, maybe at Wordplay. Oh, by the way, before I forget, I have to plug Poetry in Fayetteville. If you are on Facebook, follow the group Poetry in Fayetteville. As every event you can imagine going on in Fayetteville. But yes, where did that come from?
That poem came from a moment where I felt like I was going through. I felt like I was going through the first of a lot of changes that was happening around 2000, into 2013, beginning of 2014, and I felt that I needed to get some stuff off of my chest, or start opening up the door to start being a little bit more vulnerable in my work. And I didn't realize that with writing that poem, it became something like a lot of people needed to hear. So most of the time when I'm doing that poem, I don't really do it so much to, as opposed to, we got to put it in the set, we got to make it sound good, right, as it being something more so. I'm an empath kind of, so I always kind of fill out a space. So sometimes, depending on the energy in the room, I feel like that poem just needs to be said and heard, just so that way people understand that there's other folks out there that know what they're going through. But at the end of the day, regardless of how ugly the world is or how ugly the world may perceive us to be, that we've always been made perfect, because at the end of the day, whatever you believe in, if you're made in a particular person or a particular deity's image, then how can someone tell you that you're something that you're not if you're made in the image of somebody that we believe in or something that we believe in? So that's where the poem came from.
All right. That was dope, by the way. What made you want to start performing your work?
So I'm a Leo, so I guess that kind of helps out with getting out there, because apparently Leos are attention seekers, but that's what that's what I've heard. But I think kind of what I was saying earlier, just because my family did a lot of work with the arts and choir, I think it was just kind of. It was weird saying hereditary, because I feel like it was in the makeup of my family's DNA. So I think just doing a lot of stuff, and then before I even started writing, I actually grew up doing a lot of stuff. I started off doing dancing. I started off playing instruments. I used to be in band, well, not band, but orchestra, playing the violin. I used to mess around with just learning how to play instruments on my own, like piano, djembe, and then I got in the choir, so I was singing a lot. And I think when it came down to it was just like, where did I want to be with my art? Because a lot of people don't know this story, but so everybody knows that I actually came to North Carolina because of the military, but it was more so because of the fact that I think I wasn't getting into college after I applied to college. So when I did my basic training, I came home for like a few days before they sent me to AIT, and come to find out that I actually got a full ride scholarship to Ohio State for music theory. And I was already in the system, so surprise. So it ends up happening, but I don't regret anything, because things happen for a reason. I still stuck with the arts, and I end up falling back into it. So, but yeah, so I think that's kind of what got me to want to perform. I think it was just always there, just doing the stuff. And then I kind of like the fact that people appreciated the work, I guess. And I just love performing and making people happy. So, and some aspects more than others, but yeah.
Fair enough. No, personally, I think your work is dope. And I don't even think my introduction to you was you performing. I know I met you at the coffee scene, but maybe somehow I already knew who you were.
No, I'll tell you, it's probably
I don't know.
Neil. It was probably Neil. So Neil
Maybe.
Ray is who we consider the godfather here in poetry in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The man put in the work in order to get us to make a scene, or he was part of a scene, which then the scene asked him to take over, which hindsight 2020 is kind of how he did it to me. But and I would come out to the coffee scene when I get the time to come out to the coffee scene, and what he would do is when I'm there, he would tell everybody, "Hey, you need to talk to LJ about all this," and then people are asking about me or finding out stuff because he probably told them about me. So that's probably how you end up finding out. One of the days I came up there and he said something, but I used to get mad at that because I'm like, Neil, man, you do the exact same thing I'm doing. You the man, but I've had to come to the realization over the past few years of Neil passing the torch. And Neil will tell you if you talk to him personally, but it was one of those things where when the coffee scene started, there was a guy by the name of Steve Rylander that was hosting coffee scene, and then he ended up passing it to Neil. So a lot of people think Neil started the coffee scene, but he really was just like one of the starting poets of the coffee scene. Right. And when he took over the coffee scene, he literally made it the vibe it's always been, and poets got inspired from that. And I think over the past few years, Neil will start just telling people, "Hey, if you want to know about poetry, talk to LJ, talk to LJ, talk to LJ." And then I was joking one day. It was like, at some point, eventually people keep thinking I'm gonna be you and take over the poetry. He's like, "You already did. I already gave it to you." And I'm like,
wow.
Oh, so I'm trying to come to the realization. I really don't be seeing it that way, but then I always look back at the work and I'm like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff and I'm playing DC. So it kind of makes sense now. And I'm just getting to the realization of it. And I can tell anybody right now that's listening to this, this isn't bragging. This is just a truth being realized when a man tells you, but you neglect it for so long. Like, nah, man, it's just the art. We love each other. I ain't doing that because everybody gonna think I got an ego when I don't. So, yeah.
You do a lot. You do a whole lot.
I don't know.
Probably do more than I can imagine.
And I don't know how. I really don't, because it's just regular work to me. I'll be honest with you, it's regular work, just trying to do the events or just do certain things. And I'm not going to sit here and say I don't get overwhelmed, because sometimes I do and sometimes I take a break. And I think the vacation me and my wife had, it was beautiful. I'm not going to the detail of where we went, but we needed, like, sometimes we need those breaks because you give so much to something and you don't realize it's just regular work to you, but you don't realize how much time is going past. And you don't realize, hey, I haven't took a day to do absolutely nothing because I don't know what that's like to do absolutely nothing. So when I get those days now, I try to do it and I enjoy it to the best of the abilities that I can to do absolutely nothing. But then I know when it's time to work, it's time to work. Right. When I get those days when I can actually relax, I try to make sure I take those days too, just to be in a good headspace and for mental stability, because sometimes you need.
Absolutely. So with all the events that you put together, that you host, that you co-host, with all the traveling that you do, and Mr. Neil passing the torch to you, how do you not get beside yourself? Like, which is kind of a spinoff to the question of how did you come up with the hashtag purpose over popularity? Because obviously you're popular. I mean, you are. He can.
I'm sorry. I know I just hit this stream, but I'm laughing because the story is always amazing. So there is an artist here in Fayetteville by the name of Dennis Cargill. So yes. We used to be a part of this. Record, this indie record label here / family, known as Real Life Music, that was headed by my good friend Cartier Jesus, that passed away some years back. So on the cusp of like starting to get the feel of everything that was going on in my career, Dennis had pulled me to the side one day, or just hit me up one day. Was like, "Hey, I don't know if you heard, but we got a meeting today to talk about some stuff that we're gonna do with Real Life Music." And I was like, "Bet." What time? He told me the time. So we get to the studio, and it was Dennis Cargill, Cartier Jesus, another artist by the name of Cone, I believe, and Yolanda A. Bars, aka Yogi with 2 eyes. And come to find out that it was not a meeting, but it was an intervention for me.
Oh.
And it was crazy because I remember it. I remember it for a lot of reasons, but the one thing that stood out, I remember at the beginning before everything got discussed, Cardio was like, "Well, before we do this talk, you only got two options. You can either submit or you can fight." And I was like, "What are you talking? Like, submit or fight? What
You thinking it's still a meeting?
What are we about to do in here? That's what I'm not thinking it's a meeting. I know it's intervention now.
Oh, okay.
But when he said I could submit or fight, I'm like, I'm either about to get jumped or I'm gonna have to fight back. That's what I was like when you say submit or that's what I'm like, what's about to happen. But what ended up happening was, and this is why you need to have good friends. And because what ended up happening was they was telling me about things and issues I did not see going on because of how I was acting. And it's true because like I was hosting events at the time and I was doing stuff, but there was an air of ego in it that I didn't notice or pick up. And then once we had this whole talk, it kind of grounded me back to why I did the arts in the first place. Because I did the arts more so because I love doing the arts. I wasn't really trying to get well known and popular like that. I just love doing the arts. I love creating. I love having fun with it. And I think at that time the limelight kind of got to me. So the whole thing with purpose over popularity was just getting back to the purpose and making sure the popularity never comes over that or shoot past that. So now, granted, are there times where it tries to peek its head back? Yes, but I've always keep myself around good people that keep me grounded. So it's been a thing that I've always been pushing with myself. I mean, and I always tell people, if you're gonna do what you're gonna do, whatever you do it. But remember your purpose while you do it. Now, if your purpose is to get popular and get the whole ego and the money and the women or whatever you like and all that, that's fine. As long as that's your purpose, I get that. But that's not me. I know where my purpose lie at. It is over the popularity. Because at any given day, this can end.
Right.
Like the gigs can slow down, the paychecks can slow down, but you got to be happy knowing that you're still doing purposeful work. And if you're happy with that over everything else, then you can't go wrong. So that's where purpose and popularity for me came from.
Okay, cool, bad. I like that, by the way. The first time I saw it, I was like, ooh. I like that. Okay, that's nice. But no, it's actually nicer to know the story from where that came from. Because at first I was just like, okay, he's trying to remind people purpose over popularity, not knowing that it's just a reminder for yourself as well. Probably firstly. No, so that's you ego.
Oh man, I
don't know that I can see that.
I've had it. Man.
I mean, I know nobody's above having one, but I don't. I guess because how I see you now, I just can't fathom that.
Yeah, man, I've had it. Man, look, my wife is good to check it if it sees a peek its head around the corner. I promise you.
You need to tone it down a bit.
Yeah, but there's an event that happened a couple of years ago. It was a few years ago. It was during Zombie Walk. I had to perform at Zombie Walk, and something happened. It was small, but my wife caught it so it wouldn't blow up. And what it was, I was just excited because there was a lot of people that was like happy to see me perform. And it was like, if you'd ever been to Fayetteville, Zombie Walk is literally thousands of people. And what ended up happening was all these people was excited. They liked the poems I did, and I got happy for it. And then my wife was giving me this look, and I was like, "What's wrong with this?" She was like, "I just need you to dial it back a bit." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Yeah." So I know you're excited. I just need you to dial it back a bit because it sounded a little bit egoish. And I think about it, I was like, "You're right. I apologize." And then that was it. And that's why I say you need to have good people like that in your corner because it always happens. Let's be honest. Like when you get hyped about something you do good, you tend to recognize it and move on. And then sometimes it's just there so long that you just start constantly, it becomes a brag and you start bragging about it a lot. So I think that's been one of the big things that kind of helps out. Like I said, I just got good people in my corner. Definitely a good woman in my corner to help with those things. And it keeps me grounded just so that way I remember why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right. So where do you think is the line between being modest and undermining yourself and being confident and having that ego. Case in point, Winter Bloom, a few months back, I don't remember what the conversation was. It might have been the slam in April. I don't even remember, but I said something and I gave you this look like, I don't know if I can do that. And you were like, oh, small thing to a giant. I'm like, I'm not a giant yet. And you like, you are, you just don't realize it. Personally, somebody might say, oh, she's undermining herself. I just don't think I'm that great. But I also don't want to take what people tell me and take it to the head. So where is that line for you?
I think the line comes from a few things. So like with that particular scenario you just mentioned, I think it's because when someone that's considered, I guess, a vet in that particular field sees the potential or something, or recognizes it, what is being there and the potential for it, they'll come and tell you about it. So that way, whether good or bad, win or lose, you know that somebody sees the potential you have, and it's good to let them know that. Now, you can, at the end of the day, it's your choice. Either you take it in and you roll with it without feeling that you're being cocky because somebody told you that. It's just that you're getting motivated because somebody that you may see in the community that does these things look up to it. Or you can just be like, nah, I'm just going to go ahead and tell myself I'm not ready at this. They'll feel that way. Either or, can't say which one's good or bad. It just depends on the person and how they feel at that particular time. With me, and I kind of tell people this when it deals with the business side of artistry, because there was a conversation I had with a known artist, not a poet, but a known artist here in the city, when it comes to being modest and being confident when it comes to the business side. So there was a conversation that happened where an artist says that each artist should charge the minimum artist fee for when they get booked. And I didn't agree with it. And he was like, well, if you're an artist, then I don't see what the problem is. I was like, no, because if I'm booking an artist, and let's say there's this person that charges $500 but got the resume, the electronic press kit, the references to know their work to be worth the $500, as to this other artist that says their booking fee is $500, but they have nothing to show for it, then how can you justify a person saying that's how much they're worth? Because people look at that stuff, and they could be, by all means, you can be confident in your work all you want, but when it comes to business stuff, that's what a lot of people ask for. And then some people get mad. People get mad when they don't get booked because they don't have nothing to show, nothing to show the people the work that makes them want to get that booking. So I think it's just a lot of variables that play into it. And then of course, like with the confident line, if you know you put in the work, if you know you've been putting in the work, and you're not saying, I deserve this, you need to give me this, because at some point, right, people are deserving. People feel there's also a difference between being deserving and being entitled.
Right.
And I will always go for the people that I feel are deserving than the people that are entitled, because people get entitled every day when it comes to any and everything. Even slam poets. Some people do one slam and say that they're nationally touring poets, and they're not. They went to compete in a competition that's just across another state. That don't mean you're a nationally touring poet. Right. That's not a tour. So then you feel you're entitled to it. But you know, that may sound like a story shade, but that's also a known fact that some people do that. So.
Well, y'all heard it here first. So tell us about the events that you do, that you put together, host, co-host, or just participate in Fayetteville.
So when it comes to Fayetteville, I have my hands on 4 events. So there's 2 that I host, which is an event called Art Meets Life that happens every first Friday here in downtown Fayetteville at this place called the Sweet Palette. And then there's another event that I host every third Thursday called Tap on Thursday at this place called Winter Bloom Tea. The 2 events I have my hands in as an event consultant. There's an event by a group called Black on Black Rhyme Carolina, which is part of a big conglomerate, which is the biggest poetry troupe in the world, known as Black on Black Rhyme. We hold an event called Wordplay Fridays that happen every second Friday at a space called the Big Apple. And then I just started an event with the Sip Room, which is in downtown Fayetteville, for an event called Poetry Night, the Sip Room, which is hosted by an artist by the name of Poetic Zay. So on a monthly basis, those are the 4 events that I have my hands in. And each year we do an event known as the Southeast Regional North Carolina Poetry Slam. It was a festival. We were doing it for 10 years, but we just stopped the festival, but I wanted to keep the slam going. So we do that every September during our International Folk Festival weekend, which is a big festival that happens here in the city. And this year we got 14 poets coming from across the country, all coming to compete for a $1,000 prize. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens, but to be able to be in a place to put these projects together and know that it's helping not only build up new artists, but also build up a great and robust artist community, I think it makes me happy to see it. So I'm just thankful to have the tools and the necessities in order to make these things happen. And that's pretty much what I got going on here in Fayetteville on a monthly basis.
And I am thankful to you for the events that you put on. I love Art Meets Life, and love Tappa. And the thing about, each event, regardless of whether you host it or not, different venue, different crowd, different vibe, just different atmosphere at every single one. And each one of them kind of speaks to me in a different way. And granted, each one might solicit a different type of poem from me.
Exactly. And that's the beautiful thing about it. I want to make every event I have my hand on, I always want to make them different, because I don't want them to be the same type of event. You may get the same type of format, but that doesn't necessarily make it the same event. With Art Meets Life, you get a Q&A with the artist. At Tap on Thursday is basically just a regular open mic where you just go in there, you spit poems, and you have fun, you drink tea and libations, and it's just real chill, and it's a real good vibe. Wordplay is kind of like I'm gonna give you a little bit more R-rated type feel.
Yes.
So it's for the streets. No,
yes.
I'm just playing. but
that's how I feel.
But it's good to have that type of venue. And then with Poetry Night, the Sip Room, it's the laid back. I'm gonna listen to some nice poems and have me a glass of wine and relax and chill and go from there. So I mean, it's every venue has its different feel, and I think that's what makes it more unique to want to check out these events. And like I tell anybody when they come to the events, whether it be my events or any events here in the city of Fayetteville, check them all out. If you do not like an event or certain events, that is perfectly fine. That's why you have options, because you'll always find a space or spaces that you feel fits the person that you are, and that's why we need to keep doing what we're doing here.
Absolutely. Y'all be sure not to go anywhere. We will be right back here with Mr. LJ Bowens. You're still tuned in to Overseas Dreams, Show 40. Keep it locked. You're still tuned in to Overseas Dreams. I'm still your host, The Official Melody. You're still tuned in to episode 40 with Mr. LJ Bowens. Welcome back. So before the break, you mentioned Black on Black Rhyme.
Yes.
First of all, love the name. I know you didn't come up with it, but unless you did.
No, I did not.
I love the name.
I will not take that from my founder keyboard. No.
Yeah. So tell us about Black on Black Rhyme, because granted, I never stepped into the poetry space until last year, so of course I had never heard of it. And my first time hearing about it was at Wordplay. So yeah, what is Black on Black Rhyme? What do y'all do? What are y'all about? Obviously rhyming, but outside of that, like, what is it?
So Black on Black Rhyme originally started in Tallahassee, Florida 25 years ago by a man by the name of Keith Rogers, who go by the name of Keyboy. So he had this idea of wanting to get together a collective of writers and poets to not only do, of course, spoken word, but they're going to be a spoken word poetry troupe, and not only do art, but also do works within the community. Because the thing about Black on Black Rhyme, we're not just poets that do poems, we're also community minded, and we like to give back to the community and do stuff with the community. So what ended up happening, there was a group there, but then a lot of the people from that group end up spreading out. So then what ended up becoming a known thing in that area became something that people wanted to grow. So they ended up becoming chapters. So you had the original home, which is Black on Black Rhyme Tallahassee, which then you also end up getting Black on Black Rhyme Jacksonville, Black on Black Rhyme Tampa, Black on Black Rhyme South Florida, Black on Black Rhyme Atlanta, Black on Black Rhyme the Carolinas, which we have now, Black on Black Rhyme Abu Dhabi. So it's a lot, and that's just a few, just the name, but there are so many more chapters that are out there, and it's brought in hundreds of dope writers, playwrights, songwriters, everything of that nature. Like some of the people that was on Black Rhyme, one of the people, a couple of them were deaf poets. Will the Real One was one of the most notably known Black on Black Rhyme members, passed away some years ago. He was actually murdered, God rest his soul. A couple of other folks are songwriters. One of our founders actually was one of the writers to Monica's Don't Take It Personal. So wow. So we do a lot, and of course Carolina, Black on Black Rhyme Carolina is like one of the newest chapters, and we're getting a lot of things going. We're going to have a lot of stuff that we're going to be announcing soon as far as like community work and things we're going to be doing in the community. So definitely be on the lookout for it, because we do a lot, not only for just this particular chapter, but for all the chapters as well. And this month here in September, Black on Black Rhyme once again celebrated its 25th anniversary. So 25 years of the art of spoken word, and I'm very thankful to be a part of it. This is my third year being in this family, and I'm thankful for being amongst a collective of poets that I don't just see as poets, but see as friends and family, especially Key Boy, who was like the person that started this whole thing. So it's a good feeling.
Nice. That's what's up. Wow. So you only been in 3 years? Yeah.
It's funny. I got in the week before the world shut down.
Oh, wow.
That's literally when I got my chain, I believe, the week before the world shut down.
Perfect timing.
It was given to me by my birthday twin, Ebony Payne, out of Jacksonville, Florida. She came and featured in March, and when she came, they chained me during her feature at Art Beats Life. So it's always been it's a dope memory to get chained and then get chained by my fam that I share the same birthday with. So it was good.
That's dope. Wow. So what made you decide I'm gonna write books of poetry?
I always wanted to write a book, and wow. it was one of those things where if I'm doing these books as a kid, at some point it was gonna have to happen, whether I become successful or I crash and burn. I was perfectly fine with just doing one book. So the thought came to me many times, but I really didn't take it serious until I was ending my final deployment and getting ready to get out the military. And there's a chief warrant officer that had wrote a book called, I want to say the book was called Memories, Bedtime Stories and Truths, but it was like short stories, and the truths were the poems. I think that's what it was called. I think you can still find it on Amazon. But he saw some of my work, out of all places. He read some of my work on Black Planet and MySpace, because that's where I was putting some of my work. I just started back in wanting to do poems again, because I had stopped writing for a couple of years when I got in the military. And he's like, you should just gather these up and make a book. And then right when I was getting ready to get out and get ready to come back over to the States, I was like, well, I got deployment money, so I might as well go ahead and try this out, see what happens. And came out with my first book, and it was a good book. It was a good book for the time. It was a good book for the time, because there was a lot of stuff I wish I would have done different at that time, but it was fine because it was my first book. So then what ended up happening over the years, I ended up doing the spoken word CD route and making recording my work and putting it over a dope beat and all that stuff. But then I ended up getting the thought of wanting to just do another book, and it didn't really actually happen until 2016. So I did like collab books with folks, but I didn't actually write a whole nother type of book until 2016, and that was a chat book called Anywhere But Here. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I just said, I'm gonna do this chat book, see what happens. And it may have been the switch of how the literary world seen it. Because when I was doing events and getting booked to do events, and I have CDs, spoken word CDs, and I would have my books, but I literally sold more of my books than I did my albums. And I was like, well, maybe everybody's just getting back into the route, and maybe I just need to go back to this. So then came Anywhere But Here. Then came another book. I had this idea of wanting to do, because I wrote nerd poems, but I was like, what if I had an idea of wanting to do a book strictly nerd related? And one of my good friends by the name of Dasana Hanu was like, you know what, you should go ahead and do it. So then came a Blurred Line book, which that actually did good. And I had my friend by the name of Samad Wilson, stay here in Fayetteville, but known across the world for his artistry. If anybody was in this room right now, he literally is a Mario picture that he actually painted that I got on my wall right now. He actually did that.
Oh, really?
But
I knew that was dope.
Yeah, but he actually did the cover for my Anywhere But Here book and my Blurred Lines book. And that book did good. We did it at Comic Cons and sold it at a couple other places. So I was like, cool, maybe that's all I need to do for now. But then I got this idea of wanting to do a book based on life hacks, but have my spin on life hacks. So see how the creativity in my mind is just like, it's always weird. I'm like, how do I do the same thing differently and make it make sense? So then this book of life hacks came. Poems with a spin on life hacks. So when you get the book, the poem is titled with a life hack that you actually use, but the poem is not like literally the life hack. So that came up. So then I did another chapbook, and backtracking, the 310 book, which is the life hack book, was the first full book I've written since 2007. So, and I wrote that book in 2021, I believe.
Oh, wow.
2021. No, it's 2020. It was 2020 when I wrote it. It was 2020 when I wrote it, because I remember releasing it when the world was opening back up. So then that happened, and then I had a project that I was trying to submit to Duke University, and I apologize for getting long-winded, but
You're fine.
I remember I submitted a project to Duke University because a friend there wanted me to try to submit poetry for this documentary arts project, and I wrote a chapbook with all the poems being like about the Black experience. It didn't get picked up, which was fine, but I want to disregard the work, so I published a book, another chapbook, and it was called Blackout, and didn't realize that the way I put the poems, it told a story backwards and forwards.
Oh, wow.
And I did not realize that until somebody told me that, and I was like, huh. So, and then the last book before, which is the one that recently just came out, those poems are more so semi-autobiographical about me. So it was like almost a semi-autobiographical poetry book about me with some other fun poems in there. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put this out there, because then it literally opens up a lot more about me, which that's what the book does. And the only way and it's funny, because the only thing I could think of for the cover, I was like, I got this old sophomore picture of me in high school. I'm gonna put that up there, and that's gonna be like the before, and that's it, man. Like, I just love writing. Like, I always sat on poems, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out ways to make great work, have a good body of work. And I mean, I get it. I know some people like saying I got 13 books and I got 18 books, but I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I want to make sure any work I do, it's work that's meaningful. Like, I'm sitting on something right now that I don't know if I'm going to publish or put on an album, or a mixtape, but like, I wrote a 30 for 30 in respect for Jay Dilla. So I literally wrote poems based off all his music or instrumentals that he made for people or himself. And I wrote small poems off of that, and I know I'm going to do something with it. I just don't know what. So I'm trying to plot on that, and there's other stuff that I'm sitting on. So it's like, am I ever going to release it, or I'm just going to have this like stored in the vault, and then somebody just come to it later and be like, Emily Dickinson, these are the unpublished works of LJ Bowens. There you go.
No.
All 960 something poems that he never got out. So.
Definitely do some with that Jay Dilla. Yes, please release it all.
But yeah, so that's how. So
Die empty.
So yeah, so that's where the writing comes from, and what got me back into doing literary books, and it helps out because, you know, a lot of people try to distinguish like what's poetry and what's spoken word, and then the people in the literary world think that spoken word ain't no form of poetry, but I'm like, it's a poem.
Right.
If I'm not speaking it, it's still a poem. You're gonna read
It's
it
a
as a
poem
poem
regardless.
There's no such thing as, hey, this is a spoken word attempt. No, it is a free write, sir. And if you're a scholar, you would know that. But I rest my case.
I feel it. So, is there any poem from any of your books, I won't say specifically your most recent one, that you want to do?
You know what? Because we was talking about it. I'm going to do this little small quick poem called One for Ghost, which is from my Jay Dilla stuff that I was telling you about. If you guys are familiar with it, so Ghostface Killer, I can't remember which album it was on, but it's a song called One for Ghost. It's basically called Whip You With a Strap, but that's the beat, because it's like, take me across the lap. She used to whip me with the strap when I was bad. So I wanted to write to that. I wanted to write a short poem for in memory of my grandmother. So One for Ghost. Bruh, Grandma played no games. Thunders came from her voice, but lightning came from that belt. Always been a calm ocean until someone made her a hurricane. Formed in the middle of her peace. In these days, we miss her being here for Thanksgiving and holidays before. But one thing I can always remember is to keep on the straight and the narrow, because at the times she would take me across the lap. She used to whip me with the strap when I was bad. My grandma. Yeah, man. Love my grandma. I love my family. So.
That's dope. Cause I know every now and then did it 30 for 30? Did you post all haikus?
Which year? So this year. So this year, what I actually did, I didn't do haikus. What I did was I did 30 short form poems based off of anime titles.
Okay.
So I would do like a monostitch poem, a Triolet, Diamante, Richtometer, Haiku, Tonka, and Ryu, and I would use like animes like Basilic, Baki, One Piece, My Hero Academia. Had to get Bleach and Dragon Ball Z in there for all the people that love those, because those are the goats, they say. But yes.
Do you do it every year?
Some years I don't. I think I was gonna take a break this year, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna do it. But next year I'll probably take a break just to see what everybody else write and read their work. But I'll probably take a break next year. I tell myself that, but I might end up writing. We'll see.
See, I'm telling myself, because this year was my first year doing it. I had never heard of it before this year, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna do it next year. But
it's fun.
Next year will get here,
yeah.
And we'll see.
Yeah, it's like I tell everybody, it's fun when you take the challenge. It's another thing when you kind of say, you know what, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna put a theme behind it, because then it makes you work harder.
Yeah.
The hardest one I've ever done, I did a 30 for 30, and it may have been the year of COVID. But what I did was I ended up writing, this has all happened in the month of April. I ended up writing 30 poems based off DC and Marvel characters, 36 word stories based off of superpowers. And then I did another 30 based off of, I can't remember the other one, but I wrote 90 poems that month. That year I wrote 90 poems in the month of April. I can't remember what the third
That's crazy.
group was, because it was a group. Oh, Before. That's how Before came to be. Because I did Before, which that's how most of the poems came to be because of that. Then I did the 30 for 30 for Marvel DC characters, and then 36 more stories based on superpowers.
Did you challenge yourself to do all that, or you just was like, April came and you're just like,
I was in the
okay.
house. I'm be honest with you, I was in the house doing nothing because it was COVID, and there was one of those things where, as an artist, because a lot of us had gigs and stuff that got canceled and stuff that we had planned for the year, I told myself I could have to sit back and do absolutely nothing and mope, or I'm going to make myself be as creative as possible.
Gotcha.
And a lot of that is the reason why. A lot of that is the reason why once everything opened back up, I was good and comfortable because I set myself up for success. A lot of people didn't do that. I made sure I did.
That makes sense. Wow. Oof. 90 poems in 30 days. I barely got out 30 in 30 days.
But you did it though, right?
Well, that was my first time.
Good job. Look,
my first time. You're a pro at this, so.
Nah, I'm decent. I'm adequate at best. Adequate at best.
He lying. Don't believe nothing he says. He being modest. He hitting that line of modesty and undermining himself. But y'all be sure not to go anywhere. We will be right back with LJ Bowens. Keep it locked.
So, ever since I've been able to pick up a book and turn a page, I've always questioned what I read. But there are some questions in life that you just don't want the answers to. Unless you're curious like a little monkey searching for an adventure. And because of that, I always find myself in tight spots without a man wearing a yellow hat to help me maneuver elsewhere. But I've always looked at this world as being an open book to possibilities. So naturally, I should be well knowledgeable in distinguishing the difference between what is fact and fiction. But facts are becoming more fabricated than the paper they are printed on. Case in point, September 11th, 2001. It is stated that America suffered its first terrorist attack on its own soil by the use of airplanes. But this country doesn't want to recall the Tulsa race riots of 1921, when America dispatched 6 biplanes to Tulsa to drop incendiary bombs and fire rounds on a so-called Negro uprising, killing over 300 blacks. Maybe they didn't see this as terrorism, but more like a chance to burn the old crop to render it useless. Now once, I stumbled across a book on medicine, and from there began to pick up the pace on how we are always racing towards a cure. Now sure, advances have become costly over the years, but the price of life and intelligence has made up for it easy. I mean, the Ohio State prison system once injected live cancer cells into inmates to find some type of mysterious results, while FDA manufactured a new drug to calm down children's mild complaints by taking placebo, spelling it backwards, and then redistribute it as Obacop to help double their profit margin. I'm now starting to question the authenticity within this written scripture, so I guess it's best that I look towards a good book, because they say that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and God's Word will always reign supreme as long as it's the King James Version. No, wait. No, it has to be the New International one, or one of the other 50 books that was produced since the original. So if the red ink that I'm reading isn't actually coming from him, what am I to believe? How can I state these facts for us Americans to understand when America doesn't even have an official language to comprehend? Food for thought. There are more libraries built here than McDonald's, but we're so quick to intake toxins over knowledge because we find it easier to digest. Facts have become a ninth wonder of the world, wishing it still exists, and I know I am on overseas radio sounding like I'm getting high off of my own words. But that would be no different than taking the Declaration of Independence, rolling it up and smoking it since it was written on hemp paper. Now, Patrick Henry was asked to help draft the Constitution, but he refused because he stated that he smelled a rat. And now, years later, you have more than one running around Capitol Hill, cutting up the low-income cheese to feed to these low-income neighborhoods. But come to think about it, if a pro is a positive and a con is a negative, then I guess the opposite of progress should be Congress. But like I said, ever since I've been able to pick up a book and turn the page, I've always questioned what I read, which means it should be better to know a little more than a lot. But what can I determine now if we don't even know the difference between what is fact and fiction?
Where did that come from?
Oh, so
I think the first time I heard you do that was at Coffee Scene, because I remembered the progress and the Congress part.
So interesting enough, the poem actually came from I attended my first national competition in 2014. This is back when they used to have what's known as NPS, and my wife bought me 2 books, and it was two books, both titled 1,000 Things That Actually Happened That You Wouldn't Even Know About in the World. So it was like random tidbits of like history and things that's happened in the world. And I was reading these books and I was like, you know what? I feel like I should write a poem off this stuff. So everything in that poem, literally 100% true. course, with Tulsa Race Riots in 1921, and people were saying, of course, 9/11 was the first time terrorist attack was on our own soil, but domestic terrorism is still terrorism here. So there was that. The whole thing about Oberkampf and the placebo, that is actually real because the medical field took placebo and they basically just put it in another cap and just spelled it backwards just to like double their money, saying it was called Oberkampf. And if you literally spell it, it's placebo. There's more libraries built here than McDonald's. That's actually true. Patrick Henry did say that about the Constitution. So it's like, it's a lot. And I had to edit that poem down because there was so much stuff I put in that poem. And the poem originally was like almost maybe like 4 minutes and something. But I was like, I gotta start cutting some stuff. So, but yeah, that's where that poem came from.
Wow. Yeah, I remember watching a documentary. I don't even remember exactly what it was about the placebo and spelling it backwards. Mm-hmm. So that was, when I heard that, I was like, okay, LJ.
Yeah, I read. I'm an avid reader.
I don't.
I do read when I get a chance to read some books. So.
I'm a visual learner, so I can watch a documentary and tell you what happened. I could read a book and tell you 1% of what happened. I wish I had known that as a child. I would have watched more documentaries. Done better in school, but it's all right. I passed.
Yep, that's all that matters.
But no, that was dope. I mean, I think all your work is dope. I don't think I've heard a poem yet by you. I'm just like, it was just okay.
I got some whack ones. I do got some whack ones. If anybody tell you all their poems is fire, they are doing you a disservice.
Yeah, I believe that.
Shehan Van Cleef, very known, international known poet, one of the creators of Def Poetry Jam. When I first met him, he said something that always stuck out to me. A couple of things. One, not being consistent, never be consistent to inconsistency. And then the other thing, he's like, if you as an artist are doing work and everyone loves your work, you are not doing your job. So once he said that, mind blown. I was like,
wow,
yo, that makes so much perfect sense.
Okay, break that down. I think I get it.
If everybody loves your work, you're not doing your job, because the whole thing as artists is you're meant to evoke the feeling. So if everyone's agreeing with you, then it doesn't help with your creativity, because everyone's agreeing with your work. But when you have people that questions, I would say questions that give you constructive criticism. Okay. Because constructive criticism is different from when people actually are getting upset and everything else. Because because some people just won't like you just because they don't like you. But right. And that's perfectly fine. But I think when you have that balance of work being great and work being okay or needs more polish to it, it helps you. Because what you don't want to have happen is a lot of people tell you your work good. So when the first honest person say, hey, your work's not good, your ego done already kicked in, and you like, well, that's cool. Well, you're just one person. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. You don't know what you're talking about. When they, no, it's just one person that don't like your work, and it's okay. It happens.
I remember this was recently, actually. I had 3 people tell me my poem wasn't finished. And I'm thinking like, yeah, it's finished. Cool. It wasn't. And then my therapist was the 4th person to say, no, it's not done. And I'm just like, what do y'all want me to do? but it forced me to be more vulnerable. It forced me to be a little bit more personal. And I'm still not finished with it.
And sometimes poems are like that. Sometimes you'll write a poem and then months later, years later, you end up going back to it and adding more to it. And that's fine too. Like, all the work is just you stop a poem, you stop your work at a point in your life where you're like, okay, this is where I can end it. But then you might end up going back to it and adding more to it. That's perfectly fine. And then you might add more to it because you're in different stages of your life now. So
I hate it though, because I like to be done. I just one shot. That's my preference. Just start writing and then stop writing. I do not like working on stuff over time. It irks my soul. But I realize that I have to sometimes, especially with the prompts you give.
Oh, you asked for them, so
a lot of them, or half of them, I have to work on over time. Some of them I can knock out in one go around, and the other ones it's just like, oh, this is gonna take some time. I don't like that, but I mean, I get it. Personally, I don't need anybody to tell me they don't like my work, because I probably don't like half my work anyway, and I'm my own worst critic.
I think artists are their own worst critics regardless. But yeah, I think it helps out. I think it helps out when you just need to when you need to hear it the most, when you don't realize you need to hear it. I think it's just because I know where, because everybody like, good poem. Somebody like, I was straight, but you know,
Yeah.
he be like, huh?
I could think it's dope. And he just be like, yeah, it was all right. And it's like,
Well, what do I need to do different?
put my
What
heart
you
into
like?
that poem.
And seeing stuff like that, you be like, and then you think about it, like, did I not do it? But it makes you think, and like, what can you do different with your work? Like, I always think of different ways of how to do. It can be poems I've done numerous times for everybody, but I guarantee you, it's a difference from when I do it at open mic and then when I do it like for a feature set, because I always do the poem different. I always do the poems different, and like it took people to catch on to that. Because I remember one matter of fact, the last feature I did at one of the venues here. Every poem I did it different because I turned the set into like a playlist. And it was when I featured at the Sip Room event. And I turned the whole thing into a playlist.
I remember that.
And I was like, this is how we gonna make this different. Because I was like, some of these poems y'all gonna know already, but we gonna make it different to have fun with it. And I turned it to a whole playlist. And then I started bringing in other songs and stuff like that. And then it changed the whole vibe of a poem you already know, which made it sound somewhat new. And sometimes you gotta do that. You gotta rework the works.
Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to be like you when I grow up. So, you know, I'm
like,
still
don't
new
be like
at
me,
this.
Be better.
Well, that's a hard task. You are LJ Bowen. I don't know if I could be better, but if I could be like you, I've succeeded, you know?
Like I said, I'm adequate at best.
Y'all don't listen to nothing he's saying. What made you start slamming?
I got pulled into it. So one of my friends by the name of Poetic Tone had me go to a slam with him in Greensboro. And I was going to support him, but then he ended up throwing me in it. And this is at the time I only had one poem memorized. I had one poem memorized. One poem. See, that I know. I can tell you the first poem I've ever memorized. It was a poem called Smile Again. Not Smile Again. Yeah, Smile Again. Smile Again was the first poem I ever had memorized. And I did that poem. And then I had another poem called Waste Away. And that was it. Them the only two poems I had. And I knew the Waste Away poem wasn't going to do that good. But the Smile Again poem, that was like my banger. That was like the only poem I know. If I slam with this poem, I'm going to get points. But I wasn't trying to really memorize poems at that time because I was like, I just want to read my poems.
Right.
I started memorizing my work and everything happened the way it did. And then from there, I found out about more slams in the state. And then I started doing slams in the state. And then from there, Yogi went to what's known as Southern Fried Poetry Slam and competed. And then she said to me and her need to put a team together to represent Fayetteville because Fayetteville didn't have any representation aside from when she went as an individual poet. So that kind of what got me more to slam. And then it actually helped out a little bit because it also put me around other writers, which inspired me to write more work. So slam helped out in that aspect. And then it helped with the aspect of if I want to perform my poems, let me see how they do theirs and learn from there the do's and don'ts to kind of pick up some tidbits and see where my personality can fit into some of these things. And I enjoy slam. I enjoyed it for the time I've done it. Everybody mad because I'm like semi-retired, so I really don't slam like that no more. And everybody's like, you need to come back and slam. I'm like, no, I can just sit back and coach a team. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So now I coach Detour Slam Team, which we founded in 2019. First year we did it, we was ranked 11th in the region. When we did it virtually, because we was going against other people across the world, we ended up becoming ranked 10th in the world, which that was an awesome feeling. Like, that was awesome. Like, we were ranked 10th in the world. Fayetteville was ranked 10th in the world.
That's huge.
The year after, I think we was ranked 13. And then the last year we just did, we're ranked top 4 in the country. We're ranked 4th in the country.
Number 4.
And like I tell anybody, man, some people be like, well, you know, it ain't number 1. But I'm like, cool, I get it. However, we're ranked 4th out of the country. There's a lot of cities and a lot of states in the country. And I was like, even if for some reason we can't get back to this point, God willing that does happen, we do this again. And we just end up becoming a powerhouse team. But I'm like, at any given point, this is something that nobody can take away from us. So in the year 2023, Fayetteville went to Southern Fried, the biggest national poetry competition in the country, and Fayetteville is ranked 4th in the country. So,
and even though it's not number 1, They were number one for 3 days straight.
Oh yeah, overall, like score wise, overall we were the number one ranked.
They
team.
were number one going
Until
into the
four.
finals.
Yeah, but
So,
going into the finals, we was ranked number one.
That's still
Yeah.
quite an accomplishment.
So
Cause I was kind of keeping up with that, and I'm just like, number one again. My goodness, they are number one, like
yeah, man,
completely.
we were fighting, but we had enough good work to roll with the punches, so we were good. We were definitely in a good spot. We had a dope team too. Nick Corman, of course. We had Keith Sowell. We had Amanda Bullard. We had Letitia Brown, and we had Verse. So we was straight, man. I couldn't be more happy with the team we got, and thankful for their growth and thankful for everything they did to gel together and make that happen, because they were phenomenally awesome, and I'm proud of all of them.
Yeah. So if y'all missed last episode where I interviewed Mr. Keith Edwards so well, go back to show 39. And I think I said this in his interview too. Like, I follow Right About Now, and so I was wondering if they were gonna go to Southern Friars. I was like, yeah, they probably are, whatever. But I wasn't really keeping up with them like I was keeping up with Detour and Bull City and the one in Charlotte, just because I was curious. So when I saw that both of y'all were in the finals, I was like, "Ooh, they going up against Right About Now. I'm excited about this."
Yeah, it was
And then
good.
they streamed it live from YouTube, so I could see it. It was dope.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Like I said, you know how you always had those events where like, I should play this poem, but it's fine because at the end of the day, you never know what was going to happen with certain things. So, but we're good. Like I said, I'm just thankful for that moment. I'm glad they got to get on that stage and have that moment. It meant a lot to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Y'all be sure not to go anywhere. We're still here with LJ Bowens. We're not done yet. We almost done. Do not go anywhere. Keep it locked. Still tuned in to Overseas Dreams. I'm still your host, the official Melody. He's still your guy, Mr. LJ Bowens in the house. Super dope poet, spoken word artist, multi-time author, however you say that. Multi-book author, we'll put it like that.
We'll go with that.
Just a super dope human being in general. Y'all done heard parts of his story anyway. What do you have? Well, if you want to share with the people, what do you have, or what are any goals that you have for 2024, the rest of 2023?
Ooh,
and what do you, I know you want to reach people, but any specifics on what you want your poetry to accomplish within even the next few years?
That's a deep question.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I would say for this year, well, the last bit of goals for me is just to, get through the year in good health. That's like the main thing. I know we talk about poetry, but the main thing is get through the year in good health and go into 2024 with good health. But artistically wise, I think that the next goals I want to have is just, I'm probably gonna look for more book festivals, just to get back out there and get to the book festival realm. I did a couple last year. I did a few this year. I want to try to do more. I also definitely want to go on Southern Fried. Take detour to Southern Fried because it's in Pompano Beach next year. So that way we'll be at the beach,
Florida.
Be at the beach, boy. So get some of that sun. But for the most part, just keep growing the craft, growing the brand. Poetry in Motion LLC is what we do. At some point, hopefully in the next couple of years, as much as I enjoy the people that we work with here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, I think at some point got to buckle down and try to go ahead and get this building so we can have our own space, because it's good to work with people that appreciate your work, support your work. It's great though when you have the keys to your own buildings, where you can open or close whenever you want.
That's dope.
That's definitely a goal that me and my wife have been talking about for a while, and then have a dual type building where not only are we doing the art, my wife's also a counselor, and her business, Bowens Counseling Services PLLC, does a lot of counseling. She does a phenomenal job at that. So that's a shout out plug. So if anybody needs counseling, look up Bowens Counseling Services PLLC. So,
Absolutely, yes.
But for the most part, just that, of course, check on the family, be more available when I can to family and to the art. I'm on 1 million boards right now, doing 1 million artistic things, and there's some stuff in the pipeline that is coming. Not too much I want to talk about just yet, because I love to talk about more of the stuff when the ink dries, as to just say it's out there, because I went through too many times where I said this is happening and then it don't. So I kind of wait till like everything's set in stone before we announce it. But there's some stuff coming, and I just want the world to be ready for it. So that's pretty much it. And love up on people like I always do, and show them that everybody ain't a jerk. So that's it.
I know you say you semi-retired, which I don't like that. Do you ever actually think you'll really retire
From Slam? Oh yeah, I know I'm gonna retire from Slam. I think I'm gonna probably do, maybe next year. I think I'm gonna just go out and do a couple of slams just to do some slams. But I think as far as like really competing on a level like I used to, I think I'm pretty much done with that. Only because I just got too much going on where I can dedicate the time to do that, and I'd rather help build up the next gen who wants to do it because they got more energy than I got, because I'm just doing too many things. So but I might got one good run in me one more time if I decide to do a team and make a team. I would probably go back and do one more year with Bull City just to finish out my slam career. Even though I'm in Fayetteville, Bull City is where I made my first team, and I won championships with them and came in second place. So another year. So that would be like my swan song kind of from slam if I were to do that.
What say 50 years from now, 100 years from now, whatever, you're no longer here and several generations have come out of Fayetteville, poets and just writers in general, what would you like to see? Or if you could see the future, what would you hope that several generations from now would do poetically, or just event wise, slam wise, whatever, all encompassing?
It's really not so much what type of event or what type of slam. I'll really just say if 50 years or 100 years from now,
what would you like to see become of Fayetteville poets, just in general?
I would just like to see the scene keep going. I think one of the biggest fears that me and Neil always talked about is if me and him stop doing poetry and stop hosting, would there still be a scene? I think that's the one thing we always kind of keep in the back of our head. So I would pray that the scene is still going when I'm long and gone, after I didn't passed, after turning 99 or 100 and
right,
I'm good. Or even if not saying it's gonna happen, if an opportunity came and I had to actually leave Fayetteville and move to Fayetteville, pack up the house and move, I would hope somebody would still keep the scene thriving, because I know I do a lot, but I try to put people in place to say, hey, y'all can do this too. It's not hard to host an event. These are just the things you gotta look for, and you start building your scene from there. Cause heaven knows I did it because I didn't feel like nobody else was. So I think that's probably why I worked so hard to try to make sure the scene was still being vibrant and doing it. And that's not saying it's true. It's just that's how my mindset is. If nobody's gonna do it, then I'm gonna do what I can to make it stay. And then, when it's time to go, hopefully somebody will pick up the reins because they didn't see the work that was put in. And hopefully that's what happened. 50 years from now, the scene's still going, and I'm in retirement on the beach, drinking a mojito. So.
Where can people find you on social media and your website?
You can find me on social media at ELJA Poetry. That's ELJA Poetry. That's across the board: Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, I believe. And I believe TikTok, even though I don't really get on TikTok like that. But ELJA Poetry. And If you're wanting to look for merchandise, if you want to look for some media, some content, or if you're open to wanting to book me in your area and you want to know how bookings work, as far as getting me to where you're at, then you can go to our website, which is Poetry in Motion NC. That's the word poetry, the letter N, motion, NC.com.
So what's up? Go follow him. Go to his website, follow him on social media. Go to Poetry in Fayetteville on Facebook.
Oh yeah, that too. If you're in the Fayetteville, North Carolina area, surrounding areas, and you're looking for poetry, open mics and stuff, go join that group page and let you know about all the events that's going on here in the city.
Yes, because it is a lot. I wish that I had made myself step into the scene before last year, because I would have been involved. I would have been involved.
But you're getting there now, and that's the important.
I'm getting there now, and because I know, there are a lot of closeted poets, closeted musicians, closeted writers that don't know about the scene or just don't feel like their stuff needs to be heard. It absolutely does need to be heard. You have no idea who might need to hear your work, or maybe nobody needs to hear your work. Maybe you just need to hear yourself say it. Because that is one thing I've noticed. Just like if I write a poem and I don't read it back to myself out loud, and I just decide, I'm going to do this at Coffee Scene, and I hear myself say it out loud, and it's like, ooh. Like, sometimes you just need to hear yourself say it. But in that, you're going to touch somebody else, guaranteed. Regardless of what venue you go to, somebody needs to hear your work, and somebody can resonate with it. But yeah, that's just a little free tidbit right there. But thank you so much for joining me on Overseas Dreams, the best radio show on Earth and in space. You officially made it to the Jetsons' ears.
Hey, I'm in that thing.
Yes, thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Honored to have you on here. Just be able to get up with you outside of the events. So thank you. Thank you
for having me.
Absolutely.
And support this platform, y'all. Like, share with your friends. Even if, like, not my episode, just share every episode and just share the station. Support this artist. Support everything that they're doing, because it's positive work. We all about promoting positivity here. So
that's right. And y'all stay tuned. Tune in next month and every month on Farside TV's Mixcloud, Twitch channels, Twitter, or just farsidetv.com every single month, every Friday and Sunday of the month at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Like I said, next month and every month. Some of the stuff is still on Mixcloud, but as you all know, I have moved over to SoundCloud, and now you get to see poets on YouTube. So fun stuff. But yes, be sure to tune in next month and every month. Farside TV's platforms all over. And until next time, be blessed. Peace.